Hi, Achim here, InnerSpace Explorers. So I'm still on Elba, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about the technical aspects of this dive and the equipment that I used. As I said in the I did it video, I wanted to make a separate video about this because so many people ask, and I think there's quite a few people who just wanted to know about the outcome of the dive and not necessarily what bolts that I clipped where and why. And so this is more for those who are interested in what I used and why I used it. So generally speaking, I simplified it as much as possible, and that basically represents my philosophy in diving. So the least amount of equipment and everything as mechanical and simple as possible. So a friend here on Elba this morning said to me, "You're a total dinosaur and you would have used a single regulator and an analog depth gauge if it would have been possible." And he's right to a certain extent. So obviously it was a rebreather dive and it was a double rebreather dive. So why did I do a double rebreather dive? Because if I would have done, open circuit is no question. Just the amount of gas, the amount of stages, etc. would have been ridiculous. It's theoretically possible, and it's actually my deepest open circuit dive I ever did was 167, so very close to that, and that was open circuit, and it was, from the gas logistics, it was a nightmare. Also builds a lot of pressure because every breath at depth basically uses tons of gas, and so you have to be finished in a certain amount of time because you do not carry enough gas and there's not enough decompression gas that you can overstay your time. So it also gives you quite a bit of psychological pressure, and that's obviously not what you want. The other thing is that obviously the breathing itself is more relaxed with a rebreather. It's wet, it's warm, so that adds quite a bit of comfort. So doing this was a single rebreather still means that you need a lot of open circuit bailout, because in case the rebreather has an issue, you obviously want to switch to open circuit and then finish your dive. So with a somewhat conservative calculation, that would have meant that at least 8 stages, at least. So 8 stages is not really what you want to dive with, even if you have a scooter, etc. And staging these stages on a downline, you have to do an open circuit ascent, and then you somehow have to figure where are these stages, where's the upline. That all doesn't really make sense. So the easiest solution is to use a second rebreather. So if your rebreather fails, you have another rebreather, which tremendously cuts down the amount of stages and tanks that you have to carry. So the next question is, what type of rebreathers do you use? And I don't want to go too much into detail about that. Again, like electronic versus manual. There is a video that I talked about this just recently. So if you scroll down the video list, you will find this. And I also put it here as a card. So I choose 2 manual rebreathers. Very simple. I just didn't want to mess with electronics and want a computer to do everything for me, and then I have to babysit that. So the reason for this type of thinking is that I want to be in control, first of all, and I want the smallest amount of additional task load on top of the dive. So going down to that depth, navigating, looking for stuff, tying it in, shooting it up without shooting yourself to the surface is a certain amount of task load. There is quite a bit of equipment task load, stuff that you're carrying, the scooter, the 2 rebreathers, a stage, the lift bags, cameras. So don't talk about the cameras, that's a nightmare in itself. And then looking for stuff. So everything on top of that either reduces your ability to focus on the things you want to do, or you neglect the duties you have to monitor your rebreathers and what these rebreathers are doing, if it's electronic ones. I'm not saying this is wrong, it's just my way of looking at it and my way of planning things. So if you have two electronic rebreathers, they should basically do the same. So they should run with the same partial pressure all the dive. So in case you switch and you keep continuing with this electronic concept, and the decompression is based on what that rebreather is doing because you're following that computer, that means, yeah, the computer is, the rebreather is doing everything by itself, and the second one's also doing everything by itself. But if you do not monitor that and control if it is correct, you cannot rely on it. Or at least that's, in my opinion, a pretty dangerous game. So the way I was doing it was the two manuals one. I'm only monitoring one, and that thing is not doing anything by itself. So my primary rebreather was my Go. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So it was in front of me, visual access, 1 PO2 meter. That's it. So I had a depth gauge on the scooter, which was right in front of me, which I found very convenient because I didn't have to do this. So I could really focus on my navigation, and I still had my depth reading in front of me, on my depth and my time. And obviously I had that redundant because I had it on the computer as well. The computer is my PO2 measurement, but it still gives more information, which I basically hate. So if I would have had the opportunity to delete all of this crap and just have these three numbers there, would have been even better. So my second rebreather was a KISS Classic that I was wearing on my back. And the oxygen was switched off. For those of you who are not familiar with that, all these KISS-based rebreathers basically inject oxygen continuously with about 0.7 liters per minute. So that's obviously switched off because otherwise it would blow up the rebreather and make it positive and bubble all the time, and the oxygen would go. So that was switched off, the diluent was on. So basically that rebreather doesn't do anything. And if I have to switch on it, yeah, the PO2 is not optimal, but that's like one press on the button and it's where it should be. Basically just going on it and basically sucking in diluent is fine. I mean, it's breathable. So I didn't bother about this rebreather at all. The only thing I did is on the way up at about 80 meters, I unplugged it from the stage and basically opened the normal diluent on the rebreather because it was a better breathable diluent for the way up. So on that small 2-liter tank on the back was 1845, whilst the drive stage had Heliox 6. And on the Ascent, then switching to Heliox 6, like open circuit, so to speak, because the oxygen switched off and I have to switch on it. Yeah, better to have 1845 in it. So, but that was the only thing. I had two drive stages, 80 cubic feet with Heliox 6. Both of them had two hoses. One was a switch lock connector that could go in the classic KISS, and the other one connected with an inflator hose to the Go. So double redundancy. So one stage for the KISS, one stage for the Go, and each of these stages would have been able to feed the other rebreather as well because it had the different connection. So I could switch whatever I wanted to. Didn't have to. Everything was fine. So that for me was the ultimate setup. Regarding decompression, I had a plan for 160 meters, 20 minutes. So I realized relatively soon in this dive that these 160 meters do not work, so it's deeper. So the maximum depth was, the shallowest reading I had was 171.2. The deepest one was 173.8 or something like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And so I shortened the time. So basically, it took me a little bit more than I was planning 4 minutes to 160, which a lot of people think is incredibly fast, but 40 meters per minute descent speed I think is not crazy. I like to descend fast because it's not like you on a dive like this, you start counting your bottom time when you reach the bottom. I mean, you have to take the down time in as well, and I don't want to waste a lot of time swimming down there. So basically I used the scooter 2 minutes to 80. Then it took me a little bit to reorient and where's the ledge, because the stone of this this concrete block that holds the buoy is like not directly on that slope, so I had to go a little bit on 80, and I think after 3 minutes or so I hit the slope, and then I continued down. So I think I hit 160 around about at 5 minutes, a little bit more maybe. And then I started to scooter out, and I realized the slope's down. So I was a little bit on 160, and then I realized, oh, that's not good. So I was in blue water, and I slowly went down to 165-ish, something like that. Then I spotted these portholes, and I went down to 170 something, and immediately started to work, put these together, turned around, saw the first bell, went over there, clipped these in, which was a bit of a struggle because I was basically dragging these portholes with me, which are have a little bit of weight, and then fumbled everything together. Visibility was kind of okay, so it was more sand than mud, fortunately, because if it would have been mud, first of all, I wouldn't have seen anything, and the other thing is, as soon as I would have started to work, it would have been zero vis, which would have been pretty unpleasant. So visibility was kind of okay, and so everything was together. I attached the reel, I shoot it up, and then I basically turned around and started to go back towards the wall. And my total time till I started my ascent was 12 minutes. Which is actually quite fast. Interesting point here is that the timing on the three instruments that I had was different. So they all showed different depths, and they also had a time difference of about 2 minutes. Really, really weird. Which also indicates that the accuracy of these things is kind of questionable. I mean, overall, all good. I mean, it's not like huge, but anyway, I mean, you would expect at least the timing to be exactly the same. So I don't know if they just started at a different depth to count or something like that. I don't know. It was a bit weird in my opinion. And then I started my ascent, which was relatively fast. I think the first portion of the dive I ascended was like 15 meters per minute to round about 140, and that's when I then slowed down and made my way up. I said in the other video I had this issue with my tooth that then started to bleed, which made it a bit uncomfortable, and at some point I had to switch to the other kiss because it had the BOV, and it was easier to throw up because I was swallowing in quite a bit of blood through the BOV. Then, I mean, on a regular rebreather you can't do that, so I was staying on the classic kiss for a while, and then in the shallow part I switched back to the go, simply because the breathing is so much more comfortable. Regarding these rebreathers, it was very clear for me from a very early stage of the dive planning that I'm going to use 2 MCCRs, and that it will be something KISS-like, so to speak. And I was thinking for a while if I use the same setup that I used in the channel dive, so 2 classics on the back, but I just don't like these 2 loops around my neck. Then switching back and forth is something I really, really don't like. And the thing for me is that when I started diving the Go, the work of breathing is so much better than any other rebreather that I decided this is my favorite rebreather for this type of dive, especially with the Heliox 6. I mean, there's no breathing resistance whatsoever. It's just fantastic. And actually I realized that on the way up when I switched to the Classic, how bad the breathing is compared to the Go. And so yeah, first of all, it made a really nice configuration. The KISS on the back just clipped the small one on the front, so a clear separation of the 2 units. So also very clear. I mean, you have the 2 loops on the 2 classic KISS on the back. Is always, I mean, you don't see the rebreathers. So there's this one loop from the back that's underneath. The other one is going from the front and also tucks down the other one, which stays here. I just thought it's perfect. And I was super happy with this. So very, very nice configuration. I could reach everything very simple, which is not really the case on two classics on the back. So it's really hard to access anything. I mean, obviously you can reach your valves, but there's no tanks in the middle. So the entire configuration is, yeah, not my real favorite. So scooter, I was using an old Gavin, and that's completely rebuilt, and it has the Delrin tube, and so I tested that before. I actually just lowered it in one of our lakes to about 180 meters with the props in neutral, just spinning a little bit, so to see if all the seals and everything, and that worked flawlessly. It was really, really nice. So perfect, really, really good. And it also worked flawlessly on the dive, so no complaints here. It had two camera mounts on top of it, and I had the lift bag strapped to the scooter as well, so it was a little bit like a donkey. I was carrying everything I needed, and as the thing was in front of me, I had good visual access to that. It has the two video lights from Orca, and here's a video of, here's a picture of it sitting in the boat. Actually, that's from a dive I did afterwards on a smaller wreck, and it actually has two different housings on it because I damaged both of these housings. Or actually, I didn't damage the housings, but actually I flooded both of them, and it looks like I flooded them through the buttons. So the cameras are both dead. The SD cards I could save. So what you see on the picture is two of the regular housings with my roll eyes, because this other dive I did was 35 meters, and I still used the scooter, and so that's basically the setup that I used in the dive as well. Other than that, there was not that much equipment. With these two lift bags, each of them can lift 50 kilos. With the CO2 cartridges, so that worked perfect. For those of you who haven't seen that, because I talked about it in the video before, obviously I didn't want to fill the lift bag with a regulator or something at that depth. And from what gas? I mean, you don't want to put heliums in these lift bags. That would have been an expensive fill, and would use a ton of gas. So I had CO2 cartridges mounted in these lift bags. So I was basically just screwing like a nut, just closed it, which pushed the pin in and then released the gas, and that worked perfectly. You just have to pull the lift bag up a little bit so the escaping gas is inside. And no complaints about this. Worked flawlessly. And other than that, decompression. Total dive time was 372 minutes. I think I talked about this before and then just wandered away. So I planned for 160 for 20 minutes, and I did 170 for 14 or for 12. 14. That was my planning. I just added like 2 minutes of extra because it took me a while. It was hard to say when I really left because I was scootering back up there, and so my calculation was 170 for 14 minutes, and there was around about 6 hours and something, and the profile I'll put in here as a picture so you can see how I did it. Another question that somebody had, different diluents. So basically I did not switch any diluents. The diluent was plugged in all the way. On the classic one, I obviously switched to 1845 at some point, and so I didn't inject any diluent on the way up, so I was basically blowing out all the time and just adding oxygen, which worked perfectly. And on the way up at 21 meters, there was a 50-25 hanging around, which I exchanged for one of the 80s. So I clipped this one in because I was like, maybe if it's hard to maintain a certain PO2, it's easier with this one. And that also had an open circuit regulator on it, but I didn't use it. So I just switched these two stages and that worked perfectly. But other than that, very, very unspectacular. The bleeding thing stopped at around 40 meters, and that's when I also switched back on the go. Yeah, sorry it took a while, but when I came back from Elba, actually work was catching up. There was quite a few things to do, and a couple of days later I already went north to Himo because I had a rebreather class there. And so when I came back on Wednesday, again my workshop was calling and lots of things that I had to do. And so now finally weekend, and I can share the rest with you. So before I start, I learned one thing from this expedition, and I actually got quite a bit of fire for that, so to speak, that it was kind of stupid to do it alone. And I'm not talking about the dive itself, that I would always do alone again, but it would have been way, way smarter to take some support with me, especially for the filming. So doing the dive alone, I mean, the underwater part of the dive is something I really enjoy. So I do not necessarily need somebody next to me in the water. The preparation part, like getting the stuff on the boat, getting it from the boat in the water, reloading the boat, like handing off stuff during the shallow decompression stops, all of this is a comfort thing. So again, I don't really need that. Of course, it would have been nice to give some of that stuff away, like come up and see that the goodies were already in the boat, and not have to carry after the dive all of this stuff out from the boat to the apartment, all of these things. But what sucks completely is trying to do all of this alone and document it in a proper way. And that I failed miserably, that I just have to admit. And so I tried as hard as I could, but it's one very unsatisfying result, so to speak. And there's a few things that added to that. So obviously, I mean, everything you do is kind of from your own perspective, whilst the third person would obviously be able to give a total different angle. The other thing is that, and that actually sucks for the underwater part, but I don't really see a solution for that. If you remember in the preparation videos, I talked a couple of days about this video thing, and I couldn't find proper camera housings for the cameras I was using, etc. And then Thomas Winkelmann from DiveTech made these super cool camera holders for the scooter for me. Just put a picture here. And so I put these housings on there, one like tilted back so it's filming me, one that's filming to the front. And I was referring a couple of times to Xavier Meniscus, the French cave diver, who's doing it similar like that, and I really like these videos. But I had to realize that obviously scootering through a cave with proper lighting and filming yourself scootering and just basically showing the surrounding is a complete different story than looking for something and then working on it, because that would mean that the scooter basically is adjusting itself to what you're doing, which it doesn't. So the other thing is that that person that gave these cameras to me, well, I think these camera housings were pretty much done. So the one that is filming me is actually flooding already on the way down. So my plan was to switch on these cameras at the buoy at about 80 meters. And that's when I realized that the one that was facing me was already full of water. So anyway, this person afterwards was like, oh cool, no problem, just buy a new one, which I did, which added some additional financial discomfort, so to speak. But forget about that. And the other one is basically, I mean, if the scooter is in front of me, it was shining, it was filming to the front. So when I reached the planned 160 meters and I realized there is no bottom basically, but it's continuously sloping down, and I started to scooter into blue water, the scooter lights on the video were pointing like 45-degree down because I wanted to see what's underneath me. So I was scootering out there and I did not want to follow the slope because obviously I wanted to stay at around about 160 as long as I could, because my plan was doing 160 meters for 20 minutes. So, all right, so what the scooter basically picked up is black water. Just black water with nothing in it. So when I spotted these things, the camera was pointing that direction, I was looking that direction. And a couple of people pointed out to me, and I think I talked about it before, a paralens would have been a smart idea. I just couldn't find one for a decent price, and I was not very keen on buying something where the company doesn't exist anymore and basically no support, etc. Just as a short announcement, there's something coming. I was so sick of this that I actually started to work on that. And there will be a solution which I'll introduce not so long in the future, or not so far in the future, but that's a different story. So what then happened, and I told you that I was using this old Gavin scooter, which I showed you in the preparation videos a couple of times. And though it has these really thick O-rings between the tube and the end caps. And at that depth, what happened is it basically gets compressed so bad that these O-rings get thinner and thinner, which basically means that the inner volume of the scooter shrinks a little bit. So it was neutral on the surface, and 160, 170 actually it was negative. So not terribly, but I mean it was basically sitting on the sand. So when I approached these portholes and I started to work on them, I put the scooter like on the side and just put it on the sand. So I did not disconnect it or anything. So I started to work on these portholes, and then I turned around and I put this picture in the first video, but I put it here again, which is just a screenshot from the video, because that was the moment when I saw these bells here. So the scooter was next to me, like left of myself, and I turned around to grab the scooter, and then in the light of the scooters, I saw the bells in the sand. And that's when I picked up the scooter again, and because I thought for a moment, like, should I just forget about those portholes? But the lift bag was already attached and everything was basically ready. So I basically just grabbed all of this and humped over to these bells, and then attached the bells to the same setup and then shot it up. So the time pressure was pretty intense. So when I had all of this stuff together, my runtime was already 12 minutes. And which, looking at it from now, was pretty fast. And that meant that the kind of preparation I did, so the lift bags on the scooter, all these little strings that I showed in the preparation that I could fiddle through here and just click it in the carabiner that was hanging from the bolt snap, and these CO2 cartridges, all of this worked flawlessly, and that was basically what made it possible to recover all of these things in such a short amount of time. But anyway, I was kind of rushing through the whole process, and that was what I said before with the video. I mean, the focus was so much on the task that I didn't really think about this video stuff at all. It was just, I mean, that was also the reason why I mounted it on the scooter. I was like, yeah, I will film itself, right? Which it didn't really, but I mean, and the position of the camera, the best thing would have been somebody in the boat and the ROV in the water and the ROV filming me. Didn't happen. So then I had all of this, and then I started to scooter back towards the wall, which was fortunately super easy navigation-wise because I was just basically following the slope up, which was very visible because it was relatively steep. And then I just saw this lamp, and then I basically just grabbed on the fly and pushed it in the pocket of my dry suit, and then I already started my ascent. So much for this video drama and the way the recovery went. Regarding these two, somebody asked if I continue to search for the Julia. No, I don't. I might get back there at some point with an ROV just to cruise around a little bit and see if something pops up. But for me, it's kind of ticked off. So I might, I mean, if I do so, I will let you know, of course, and take you with me, because also that probably creates some more interesting footage. But I'll definitely not do this dive again, because then I get divorced. My wife was not so happy about this, because she asked me up front, like, how deep is this gonna be? And I said 160, but she heard 60, and she was like, oh, yeah, okay. And then basically when I called her after the dive, she realized that, why was this dive so long, 60 meters? And I was like, 160. Anyway, she was not happy about that, and she's right. So I just basically wanted to do one crazy thing, and this was a project that I basically had already written off, because I thought I'll never get a permission to dive there. And when it came, I thought about it for quite a while, and then decided I'll do it, and I was very confident about it, so I did not take any unreasonable risks, at least in my opinion, and the fact that I'm sitting here proves me right. So yeah, somebody also asked if I'm going to restore these, like back to shiny, whatever, and I will not. What you see here is when you saw the footage in the first video where they were hanging, they were actually looking pretty much like that. And then I took them out of the water, and they turned like really blackish greenish relatively soon. So when I had them back in the apartment, they looked really nasty. And so I just treated them a little bit with acid, and then dipped them in ammoniac, so to stop the work of the acid. And then basically went on them with a high pressure washer and a brush. And that's basically the end result. And I like this little patina, so you can now really, I don't know if you see that on the video, but you can see Ophelia 1942, and same as here, the Chiara 1942. And you can still see the discoloration and everything that comes from the seawater. And I think I keep them like that and just put them in the collection. I'm not sure yet where I place them, but yeah, they will stay like that, because when I polish them up, I mean, it just, for me, that looks wrong then. But anyway, just my personal opinion. So the other things are sitting here behind me, and that will be a separate video that I will do this week, where I will, we're still collecting all the people that donated, so I have a big Excel sheet there. And then I will give away all these 4 portholes, the light, 20 books, a couple of other things. So, but this will be an extra event, and then also I'm not going to do that live, because I was not happy with the result last time from the book giveaway. It was pretty hectic and everything, so I will reveal in this video who's the winner, so you can follow that. And then the winners can contact me and give me their addresses and everything, so I'll start to ship things out. All right, so there's so many more news I need to tell you, but this will all be separate videos, because the ISE shop's basically ready to roll. There's a lot of things that arrived, vet notes, master straps, etc. But I will show you all of this in extra videos. This is doesn't belong here. So I know there's tons of questions out there regarding this project. So whatever it is, put it in the comment section. Either I'll answer it in the comment section, or I'll make another video just answering questions. There were already a few after the first video, which I think I answered in this one. Ah yeah, there's one more thing, the damn computer. Me being a computer idiot, I'm still struggling to download the profile from this dive. You'll get that. Actually, it looks like the app I had didn't correspond. Don't ask me. Not my type of thing, but a friend of mine's coming in next week, and he said, yeah, no problem. He can download it on his computer, because actually the computer was not mine. And then we have the profile, and then I'll make a video and explain a little bit the planning of the dive, gas planning, decompression, backup strategy, stuff like that, because I don't want to stuff these videos. We're already at 20 something minutes, and I don't want to make a 1 hour video about all this stuff. So break it down a little bit also. based on interest. So somebody who's really only interested in the dive planing, then there will be a separate video, and then we can talk about that. So I hope that makes sense, and you guys like this. And yeah, thanks again to everybody who supported it. The fundraiser is still open because I just realized that somebody just donated a couple of euros. So if you have not yet and you love this project and you're interested in this giveaway, you can still donate. So the link is in the description, and the fundraiser will be open till I do this giveaway, which will be during this week, or worst case next weekend, which is Easter weekend, where I have plenty of time, and then I can probably sit down with my boys or somebody just pulling these names out of this big box and stuff like that. So we want to make this super serious and following a proper plan, so this is also transparent for everybody. And yeah, so I hope you had a great weekend and you enjoy this, and see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.